Hi, welcome to Sacred Foundations. I am Julia Frainer. This is our April 2022 reading, card pull reading. As always, I'm super excited to share this time with my good friend and sister, co-creator, Jill Chesrow. Welcome, Jill. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm wrapping up my kid tour. I do a kid tour every couple of times a year, and so I'm getting close to that. So I am coming from Denver, Colorado right now.
You are amazing, and I love your Sagittarian adventuresome soul. So
Thank you. It does come out sometimes, doesn't it?
absolutely. All right, so I am super excited about this card reading, and I just want to touch base. If you are new to us, welcome to Sacred Foundations. So the intention behind the reading that we do every month is really just that. How can you develop and or deepen your sacred foundation, and what wisdom is available to us all as we journey in this lifetime? So having a sacred foundation, to me and Julia, you have your own relationship with what sacred foundation means to you. But for me, it's just that. It's the foundation, and it's the sacredness of all life as we express in the physical world as ourselves in this lifetime. When we have that foundation, then we are able to navigate life with a little bit more clarity, stability, even when things like are a little wonky. So having that baseline, we use the Cross of Truth reading, and I'll pull up the images of the cards in a minute. But the Cross of Truth reading, really, it's a 5-card spread. Each card has its own position, which we'll talk about when we go into the reading. But it really is an all-encompassing reading, even though it's only 5 cards, because you get the theme, you get the helpful energy, you get the obstacle energy, and then you get the overall kind of outcome answer advice card at the end. So I absolutely love it. So I wanted you to have that information before we move into the reading, if you are new to us, and welcome everybody, new or old. All right, Jules, anything else to add before we start the screen share?
No, I think we are good to go with that.
All right, I always feel like this is the big reveal. All right.
This is like the big reveal.
What does April have to say for us?
Yes, and you can look at this collectively or individually too, right? So it's just such a beautiful way of approaching a month or working in a month. And as Jill will explain, or as we'll talk about more in our second half of the month, when we do a frequency work and meditation, that it will always meet you where you are. You come to this when you come to this. It's the most perfect and appropriate time.
Awesome. So Julia and I chatted just a couple minutes before. We really both individually, outside of each other, felt like the cards were speaking to us directly. I do want to say that we are using, I don't have my full decks here. We're using 2 card decks that were a collaborative project between a bunch of intuitive artists and healers. So each artist brought through their own image, and then they also channeled their own message that goes with the card, which is immensely important. So if you are a seasoned card reader, then this is not new information to you. But if you are a little bit newer to card readings, we want to engage all of our intuitive abilities into the reading. So that's clairaudience. What do you hear from the cards? Clairvoyance. What do you see from the cards? Clairsentience. What do you feel from the cards? And claircognizance. What do you know from the cards? So as you look at the cards, a lot of readers will be like, oh, well, the cards speak to you. And I know when I first started out, I was just like, yeah, no, they're not. It's just, I didn't really feel into that, like the cards were talking to me. But if you are more visual, what colors are jumping out for you? What words jump out for you? What images jump out for you? That's all a nice clue of, what you're being asked to focus on. So even just looking at the colors, the images, and the name of the card itself is so important. Julia and I are not going into the individual artist's message for their card right now. If you own either of these decks, Awakening to Your Divine Self or Priestesses of the New Earth, we absolutely invite you to look at the artist's message. Each artist does individually sell their own decks. I know, Julia, you still have some of each deck.
I do.
And I only have Priestesses of the New Earth, and or we can help set you up with an artist that does sell the decks if you are interested in getting your own deck. I did want to mention that as well. All right, so Jules, anything else? Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes total sense. And if you don't own the decks and you're come across this reading and you're like, I really want to know what the artist wrote about a particular card that's really speaking with you and to you, just reach out, leave a message, email us, whatever works for you, and we will be happy to read the message from the artist as well.
Oh, that's perfect. Thanks, Jules. I didn't even think of that. All right. Very cool. You want to go ahead and start and just start seeing what the cards were telling you?
Yeah, so I thought it was really interesting that Jill and I both felt really inspired to read the cards. And again, I want to just the cards alone and the message that they were bringing across. And that is not to diminish the magic and the wonder and the potency of the artist words, the wise words of the creator of the card. But this spread really spoke to me as is. And so the first card would be Passages. And this is the current energy card. And for me, this was really saying that we are in a time that opportunities, thresholds are abundant for us. We dwell in a quantum world and opportunities are always befalling and coming before us. And what thresholds do you want to cross through? And I think that as the veil thins a little bit, this opens up to more and more possibilities. Again, I think it's leading to hinting towards time jumping. What I mean by that is in any given moment, we're making a choice. And that choice is one of countless choices. And as we do that, we kind of jump into new scenarios. So I don't want to go too deep into that, but just the knowing that you have opportunity before you and what threshold, what passageway do you want to cross into? Like we're being nudged to make some choices. And spring is a wonderful time. This is the astrological new year. It's spring. This is when baby critters are born. This is when, and baby granddaughters are born. This is a wonderful time to be looking at where you want to be in the next 6 months, the next year, tomorrow even. And how do we do that? Well, the next card would be Create, and we are by birthright creative beings. We can argue this all we want, but just go with this right now. Allow it to meet you where you are. We are all creative beings, and we create what's going to happen next in our life. We might not always choose the events that happen around us, but we always have the opportunity to create within any given circumstance, especially when you are owning it, when you're making creation a conscious choice along with the threshold that you're crossing into. That's all a conscious choice, being more aware of where you are, who you are, and where you want to go. And the helpful card is intention. I can't drive this home enough. Everything starts with an intention. We should learn to be more intentional and on purpose with everything that we choose, with every creation that we have. And so with intention and being more in the conscious choice of what thresholds you're going to cross into, setting the intention is like, we have our attention somewhere, and our attention is going to direct our pathway, our passage. But if you're setting an intention, you then intentionally are putting your attention somewhere. So it's super important to have the intention, and it's also very simple. Just setting the intention. Who do you want to be if you didn't know the how. Who do you get to be by making that choice? What do you want? And what's in the way? And really peeling it down to that simplicity. Don't get stuck in the how. Continue to move forward with who you want to be as you cross through that threshold. What is it that you want to create? And get really curious and imaginative as you do that. The obstacle card then, or what I'm calling the obstacle card, is luminosity. And why I say that is so often we're looking outside for the enlightenment, but this is asking us to come within. And you can see in the card, she is well lit up. It's radiating from within her. I'm seeing it that way. She's got that little flame in front of her. This, and I'm pausing because I'm thinking of the artist of this card and what she had been through, but allowing the light from within to shine the answers for you is huge. And so often we don't do that. We are distracted. Again, your attention is being distracted and led someplace else. And this card says, sister, turn within. Brother, turn within. Look for the light within you. And when that sparks, and you know, that anahata, that heart space, that heart chakra, and anahata means unstruck. It's always been there. It's always been pure. You've always had the light within you. Allow it to illuminate yourself from within. And then the outcome card is surrender. And for me, this is like, as we get to that point at the outcome, by going through these steps, this motion, we then learn where it is that we surrender. Where do we surrender to where we're not being resistant to moving forward? And what is it that we surrender to that we can just let go of? And the image that came to me as I was sharing with Jill was the story of the elephant who'd been chained for always. And then they take the chain off, but the chain is still there and the elephant is not able to move. You can surrender. And when you surrender, the chain falls off and you're invited then to move through that passage. And I wrap up with this reading to me could be read in the direction that I just did, or it can be read backwards. So taking the same concepts, the same ideas, and what comes to you and reading it backwards. The beauty of it is you are creating your world, your reality in each and every moment. I loved it, Jill. Thank you. What came to you, sister?
Yeah, that was beautiful. So again, so super excited because these cards are really powerful. And I love that you bring in the astrology of the astrological new year. This is my birth month. I'm all about new beginnings and new energy. So I absolutely love it. So when the cards were speaking to me, I know I always say that, you know, certain cards are my favorite ones. This is, oh, can't see me. I'm sharing screen. Passages is one of my all-time favorite cards. When you look at this card and you look at the symbolism and the symbology in it, to me, this woman, this beautiful woman on this card, you know, she sees or her mind is thinking of this really transformative energy with the butterfly and the Holy Spirit of the white dove, whatever that means for you, you know, not from a religious standpoint, but this really divine feminine. Jules, you have a lot of symbology of the dove in your other card. Mm-hmm. So I was actually going to ask you a little bit. Can you just really quick, though, explain the symbology of the white dove?
For me, the white dove is peace and freedom. It is that at that point of surrender, of actually taking flight and letting go. And when we're in that place, for me, and in my card that you're talking about, it was a restoration, a healing of my heart. It was a remembering of my truth. So which brings peace. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. So yeah, so that freedom then goes with that transformation. But so the woman on the card, though, she's just like, you know, she has these wistful thoughts and she knows and she can feel this transformative energy and all of this pure potential and possibility, but she's like a little bored. Like there's a mismatch between this pure potential, but what she's feeling in her mundane life. And as part of our spiritual journey, it really is bringing the divine or that higher dimensional energy and expressing it through us in this physical world. but because the energies are denser or whatever, you know, sometimes it's just not always as free flowing as it can be. When we think about going up steps in these passages, it takes energy and effort to go up those stairs. So there is effort in the world, and so that's important. So if you're feeling a little bit, you know, bored, or just like things are like, oh God, I have all these dreams, but you know, but I got to do X, Y, and Z. Pay attention to that. Pay attention to, on a scale of 0 to 10, with 10 being the highest, how mismatched do you feel from your vision? So that's going to be important to just tap into. No judgment, you know, just observe and see where you feel with that. So then we move into the next card, which is this create card and this creative energy, which is really what the woman in the first card is feeling, that pure potential. Now, when you look at the create card, right, there's this powerful woman and there's all this energy around her and this wisdom and this insight that's available to her. And at the same time, sometimes you might look at that image and be like, wow, she's all powerful and there's all this pure potential. And at other times, that energy might actually feel scattered because there is so much pure potential.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there's a lot of people in the world that they live in the world of pure potential, right? And it's exciting or whatever. That's kind of where I tend to live personally. But a lot of my clients or people that I talk to, that pure potential overwhelms them. So as beautiful as an energy as it is, it can also be overwhelming. So we want to acknowledge that. Again, no right, wrong, good, or bad. It just is what it is. So this creative energy, then when we shift over to the helpful energy card and we look at the intention card, what I love about this card is when you look at this card as well, it can look a little chaotic. There's a lot going on in that card. So when Julia talked about, you know, intention and attention, so intention with an I, attention with an A, so energy, attention, and focus is oftentimes required if you're feeling a little bit scattered or you're not sure what direction you're feeling called or being asked into. So that's where the intention is going to help you focus your energy. So what lights you up? What makes you happy? Like, what is it that you want to create in your life at this time? And, you know, it could be super amazing and magical, or it could be something mundane, but you can still bring that creative, pure potential energy into the mundane, because this is both a spiritual experience and a physical experience. And we want to marry the two. Mm-hmm. So that's where the intention is going to be super important. All right, so now we move over into the obstacle card. So the first message I got was totally along the lines of what Julia got, as far as, well, you know, are you shining your inner light? Are you hiding your light? Like, what wants to illuminate but is being held back for various reasons? So I asked, and I spent a little time with this card, and I'm like, well, what other message is there? And I pulled a support card from a different deck, and that card was altered states. So I'm like, wow, that's a really interesting card to get in this regard. So altered states can mean getting into that meditative state, really kind of going on a shamanic journey. And the shamanic journey part of it, for those who incorporate shamanic journeying into their personal practice and their sacred foundation practice, if you've been feeling nudged to go on a shamanic journey, or however, you know, you end up doing that in your practice, but you've been putting it off and you don't have time to, you know, to go into this altered state space, I want you to pay extra attention to this, because I really feel like your soul is asking you to move into this shamanic journeying space. So that's one part of the altered states. But when we look at the word altered, we kind of get the hint that, you know, maybe you're just not seeing things through your higher self, but you're seeing things through your limited self. You're, you know, the lack and limitation, the I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, and all of those things. Is your perception altered because of these limiting old ideas or beliefs and conditioning that you feel about yourself? So something there might want to be illuminated so you could move through that obstacle. So then that brings us to the answer, outcome, advice card, which is the card surrender. And what I want to mention about this card is this card was created by two dear friends. These two women that created this card are dear friends to each other. They are both part of Don Oscar Maracasada's I'm gonna not say this right, Pachicuta Mesa tradition. They're carriers of the Pachicuta Mesa tradition, which is a shamanic lineage through Don Oscar Maracasada, and then who his lineage was. So they're very shamanic in their practices. So one woman created the message and another woman created the card. So in the surrender card, you've got all of the elements. You've got earth, you've got water, you've got air, you've got fire, and then you've got spirit in the middle. So this card is about being open and receptive to the higher information that's available to you from this creative universe and your creative I am presence, higher self, whatever word you want to use for that. So can you surrender what you think things should be from your lower self to what your higher self is offering to you, and what might need to be let go of so you can move into this greater vision that you have? So there's this surrendering to Jules, you told me ahead of time, I don't know if you mentioned it in this reading, but can you surrender the how? Right? So you know the what you want to create at this time or what you're being called to create, but can you open up and allow and surrender to spirit showing you the how? So what is the next action step you want to take? So if we break this down into an elemental way of looking at it, right? And there's different individuals looking at this reading and letting it speak to them. Are you grounded enough to bring your intention into form? Are you centered enough? Is there any emotional baggage that needs to be released? Is your fire stagnant? Do you need to take more action? Do you just need to get centered and still and clear with your thoughts? So it's fun to play with the elements, especially because they did show up, heavily in the answer advice card. So there's a lot to unpack in this reading for you as an individual. And again, we really hope that you take the words that we shared, but then in addition to that, you spend time with these cards, you listen and feel into what they're saying to you specifically. Listen to the elements, see if the elements have any specific insight for you specifically on, what might you need more of, what might you need less of, what do you need to let go of, where do you need to take action, stuff like that. So okay, I'm going to take a breath.
Yeah. If you're okay, I just wanted to also pause, because as you're speaking, and it's so much good insight coming in, I was drawn to the very center of this reading, which is the spiraling in and spiraling out at the center of the create card. And so that is the continuum. We're spiraling in and we're spiraling out, and the whole time we're in expansion and growth. So just wanted to bring up that as well. So beautiful, Jill.
Awesome. Thank you. So at any point in time during this little reading, we invite you to pause the video and just look at the image of the cards. And again, see what jumps out for you. Do some journaling, spend some reflective time. If you do shamanic journeying, I hope that you really make that a priority at this time during this month. So
love it. Yes. And I look forward to being back with you, Jill, and all of you as we get closer to the middle of the month for our frequency work and meditation around this beautiful card pool.
Yes, lots of energy in it. So, all right, everybody, if you have any questions to us, like Julia mentioned, just go ahead and reach out. We will have links where to see more of us or contact us if you have any questions, or feel free to leave a comment below and we will do our best to answer it. And all right, goodbye, everybody.